Zatanna on trial. Chaos and forbidden magic unleashed comic recap. A long, shadowy hand looms over a group of grim faces. A figure declares, Zatanna knows nothing. Someone else scoffs that she's just an act, that she doesn't practice magic. Another voice pipes up, admitting her show is great though. A member of the group slams their fist on a table and demands silence. You have failed this order, stranger, one of the group says. You lost her. I found her and I brought her to you. Another retorts that the person was supposed to deliver proof of Zatanna's reckless use of magic. Why do we need proof? Another voice demands. She destroyed her father. We know what she is. We should take her out before it's too late. Someone responds that they've tried, which lead to another total failure. A translucent blue figure remarks that until the demon crashed through the casino floor, there was nothing else to discover. Someone in the group mutters that this is ridiculous. Another declares that Zatanna knows nothing. She is nothing, and for this order there is only one question at hand. As a person with buck teeth eats a spoonful of soup, Zatanna demands to know who the person is and what they are doing in her apartment. The person with green hair and bunny ears says that who they are is not important. Zatanna asks if they are one of her rabbits, and the person says that they are not a rabbit, so no. A white bunny eats soup at a table with them. Zatanna rubs her temples, saying that it has been a really long day and that the person is like the third person to show up in her life in a very weird way, and the other person responds in agreement. Zatanna puts her hands on her hips and sarcastically says that they should hang out and enjoy their soup and not let her interrupt them. A giant shadow rises behind her, and she says they don't have time for this. The green-haired person asks Zatanna what's all this about her not doing magic. Zatanna responds with an "oh my god." Then she says that she did magic twice as a kid, okay, and now she can't. She continues that even if she did know how to do magic, she wouldn't because it ruins lives and apparently turns people into assholes. The green-haired person asks if that's clear enough for her. The person calls out Crystal. The next panel shows Zatanna getting slapped by Crystal, her head whipping to the side as she is enveloped in red. Blue-skinned Zatanna falls into a blue circle and wonders what it is. White-skinned Zatanna in a red suit and bow tie falls into a red rabbit hole. Pink-skinned Zatanna in fishnets falls into a red pot. Crystal is there as a green rabbit, and as orange rabbits. Carrots fall from the sky. A rabbit hole, Zatanna wonders. Crystal declares that it is a bunny well, which feels like a bit of a semantic distinction. A rabbit says that well, as she knows, a lot of magic is semantics. Zatanna responds that she doesn't do magic, so she wouldn't know. Crystal then says, "We'll see." Blue Zatanna is falling backwards into a pool of blue water with the word "boom" written in it. She says that she hates this day so much. Red Zatanna is lying on her back with her eyes closed. Yellow Zatanna is sitting with her head on her knees. Crystal, appearing as a giant orange rabbit, says that it's about to get much worse. Yellow Zatanna thinks that of course it is. Crystal, appearing with buck teeth, a mustache and goatee, declares that in the name of the Order of Bunnies, Zatanna, daughter of Zatara, are charged with a misuse of magic. Blue Zatanna shouts an exasperated, "Oh, come on." Crystal's bunny head declares that the penalty for the misuse of magic is death, displayed as a skull with bunny teeth. Red Zatanna throws her hands up in the air and yells what? A yellow bunny sniffs a pot of orange soup. Green Crystal wonders what Zatanna is, and Grey Zatanna, looking up in dread, says, "Damn, meet the creature we call the Destroyer of Souls." Is a giant, bloodthirsty bunny with a single, massive eye. It towers over the landscape, with tiny bushes and a carrot placed here and there to give it perspective. A grey bunny-eared figure looks on in dismay. A pink Zatanna runs away in fear. Purple Zatanna raises her hands and says that fortunately, if there's one thing she does know, it's how to handle an angry bunny. But then the foot of the giant bunny whomps down, and Red Zatanna is sent flying through the air. The giant, one-eyed, bloodthirsty bunny looks menacingly at Blue Zatanna, who is knocked onto the ground. Yellow Zatanna, looking through the legs of the bunny, says that possibly she is overselling her skills in this arena. The giant blue mouth snaps shut, with the word chomp written in yellow, as Black Zatanna cartwheels out of the way. A discolored purple and green bunny throws up the words, "Hate this day," over and over again, as White Zatanna runs past. Grey Bunny bumps into Orange Zatanna and sends her flying, arms out. The giant head of a purple rabbit descends, and Blue Zatanna shouts, "Stop!" Blue Zatanna lies on her back under a red mouth that is repeating the word "no" over and over again. Yellow Zatanna cries out, "Tibar," as she raises her hand. Teal Zatanna, face scrunched, reverses the words, saying, "Tibar parts Luo's Nisserg." A blast of white light shoots out of her hand. Purple Zatanna falls backwards on a purple background with the word "poof" written on it. Sparks of magic emanate from her wrists. Zatanna lies on her bed with a white suit, bow tie, and fishnets, surrounded by rows of tiny white bunny rabbits. Crystal sits at the edge of the bed and asks, "Hey, what's hopping?" A white rabbit sits on Zatanna's chest. She is alarmed and asks if that was magic. She exclaims, "So much for I don't do magic." Crystal agrees and demands to know what the hell that was. Zatanna wonders if she's so surprised. Crystal says that some creatures fight for magic their whole lives. Crystal stands next to Zatanna as Zatanna lies awake in bed, and Crystal tells her that she was born with the words in her throat, a language ready to be spoken. Zatanna is then shown sleeping and speaking in reverse, and in a dream state surrounded by flying bunnies with a poster for her show on the wall. In a black void, a bunny approaches her, and she realizes that she has been watched. Crystal tells Zatanna that she lives in a city where she's under surveillance 24 hours a day, and she carries a little computer around in her hand that. Zatanna exclaims, "What the hell?" Crystal tells her that she's been hiding from her powers, and the time for hiding is over for her magic. Zatanna shouts at her to shut up. Crystal says that this conversation isn't over, and Zatanna asks if she wants to bet. Zatanna whips off her coat, and it billows in the air. Zatanna then says that she's not the only one with a trick up her sleeve. Crystal, standing in Zatanna's billowing coat, says, "Damn it." In a row of panels, we see Crystal peeking through a doorway as an eyeball grows larger and then takes flight. She mutters that she needs to find her before they do. The eyeball flies down a street and then spies on a street corner. The eyeball sees a man walking down an alley. The eyeball pops into the man's eye socket and he winces. Then the man holds a ball of light and says, "REHMWON," which a disembodied voice tells to speak. The image of a woman's face appears. The man reports that he cannot say, but she's clearly in contact with the rabbits. The disembodied voice orders the image to return now. The man is surprised by a "Hey." Zatanna, wearing her magician's outfit and pink fur coat, says into her phone that she needs to talk to someone. She thinks she might be in trouble or something. She ends the call and says goodbye. Zatanna walks into a diner where the waitress tells her to sit wherever. Zatanna thanks her, walks over to a booth, and orders a Coke. Zatanna puts her head in her hands. Zatanna puts her head on the table and tells herself to get it together. She then sits up, thinking that whenever she's ready, she'll get it together. Zatanna looks up and notices the white and grey bunnies and thinks that it appears they may have gotten off on the wrong foot, not a lucky foot. Crystal has reappeared at the booth and tells her, "Low blow." Crystal asks if she can sit and apologizes about the rabbit joke, saying it's mostly upsetting because it's not funny. Zatanna says she was under the impression that Crystal was funny, and Crystal tells her that she's not funny when she wants answers. Zatanna asks what the casters want from her, how Crystal knew she could still do magic, and why she's been spying on her. Crystal says that she wants the truth, and the truth is there are many truths. Crystal says they need to talk about magic, because if Zatanna is going to win this fight, there are a ton of things she needs to know. Zatanna places her hands on the menu, and it begins to glow. The menu is glowing with information. It says that first, Zatanna must know that her father was a great and powerful magician, a cherished and revered magician. That what they won't tell her is that before he disappeared, the casters had long suspected he practiced forbidden spells. Zatara was becoming not just a powerful force, but a force opposed to their control. He started behaving less like a cherished son and more like an enemy challenging at their rules. Two of the casters are arguing about the rules about practicing magic, and a blue caster thinks they're likely arguing about those rules as they speak. One rule is that no caster may give or receive power from another. The act of transferring power is the highest order of magic because it is so dangerous it could destroy a caster or worse, create a demon. At a house, a silhouette says, "LAVER." and continues that still, her father believed he was powerful enough, strong enough to avoid those dangers. Zatanna is surprised. Crystal says that Zatara had always been a devout student. As a boy, he studied ancient texts of casters long forgotten, and in those texts, he discovered that in the earliest days of magic, there were no rules with regard to how casters practiced their art. That is, until some casters. A golden figure in Zatanna's menu began sterling magic, a spell so forbidden it is no longer spoken of. Outside the window, two people look like statues. Crystal tells Zatanna that the casters had their suspicions that Zatara was practicing this magic, but they were split on how to respond, so they didn't. Zatanna is shocked and asks if she paid the price for that. Zatanna wonders if she stole her father's magic, and if that is how she killed him. Crystal tells her that she is not listening, that she came to her for a reason, to tell her about her father, to tell her about her magic. At a house, a silhouette says LAVER, and continues that it is about what was given and what was taken. Another silhouette shouts LAVER, with their arms up in the air. Inside the house, a figure is walking upstairs. Another figure asks if anyone is there. A giant blue eye pops open with the word SQUEEK written above it. A figure on the stairs is attacked by birds who scream squeak. The figure falls to the ground and yells ah. Another caster looks out the window and says, damn birds. A caster is silhouetted on the wall as another says THGI, and then the sounds of flapping wings can be heard as another caster says, what? A giant monster towers over a caster, and the caster yells no. He continues that it cannot be. This is not what he was promised. Another caster has raised their arms and is saying a spell in reverse. The head of the monster and another figure are then consumed by fire. Zatanna says that she doesn't understand. Crystal tells her that she thought she had no magic, but she suspects there are many things Zatara didn't want her to understand. But you do have magic, Zatanna. Crystal tells her, you are more powerful than you know. He knows about your power, Zatanna, and he will come, and we are running out of time. Crystal says she would say they have run out of time. Outside the window, the figure who was in the alley has turned the caster into stone, saying, Tinard Ivama Elqm. The turned to stone caster declares that they accuse Zatanna, daughter of Zatara, of the crime of sterling magic. Crystal asks if the casters ever tire of being wrong. The caster says that they have their orders to take her into custody. Zatanna is scared. Crystal says that she's stolen magic, that they have proof, but Zatanna declares that she gave them magic, and the caster says that it lies. The caster says that they see she defeated that demon all on her own, and tells her to stay out of this, Bunny. The turn to stone caster is told that they can't tell the casters that they broke the rules and got a little help. So what exactly is their proof of Zatanna's magical abilities? Zatanna wonders what is happening. The waitress asks whenever they are ready that they can pay for their food up front. Zatanna says that they didn't eat anything. The waitress says that the guy at the counter said they would pay for his burger. Zatanna then wonders what guy. Someone then says, hey, Z. The man from the alley, who has light blonde hair and a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, has his arm outstretched at a booth with Zatanna and Crystal in it. He says, long time no see. Zatanna recognizes him as John Constantine and asks if this is about the car rental thing because she was going to ring him about that eventually. Or is this about her being a great and powerful magician? He has a beer in his hand. The waitress approaches with his sandwich and says that she got his call. A poster on the wall lists breakfast and burger specials. It says next, come away with me. Thanks for tuning in. Stay curious, stay awesome, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more amazing content.